There is a particular kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with sleep. You feel it on an ordinary evening. Nothing has gone wrong. Nobody has hurt you. And still, there is a weight sitting somewhere behind your ribs, a quiet sense that you are running a race whose finish line keeps moving further away. You have done what you were told to do. You worked. You improved. You got the thing you wanted last year. And the peace you were promised did not arrive with it. Almost 2,000 years ago, a man sat in a military tent on the frozen edge of the Roman Empire and wrote himself a private note about this exact feeling. He was Marcus Aurelius. He was, at that moment, the most powerful human being alive. He commanded armies. He owned palaces. He could have anything on earth delivered to his tent by morning. And what he wrote to himself, again and again, was not about conquest. It was about learning to stop being tormented by his own mind. That should tell you something important. If the man who had everything still had to practice happiness like a skill, then happiness was never something you obtain. It is something you build. The Stoics built it with habits. Small, repeatable, almost boring habits, practiced daily until they became the shape of a person's character. In the next 20 minutes, I am going to give you 7 of them. Not theory, not motivation that evaporates by tomorrow afternoon. 7 practices you can begin tonight. Stay until the end, because the 7th one is the foundation the other 6 stand on, and almost nobody talks about it. Let's begin. The first habit is this: rehearse the day before it touches you. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings with a strange ritual. Before he rose, before the first messenger arrived, he reminded himself what the day was likely to contain. Today, he told himself, I will meet people who are ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, people who will take and give nothing back. To modern ears, this sounds like pessimism. It is the opposite. He was not predicting the day would be bad. He was removing the day's power to surprise him. Think about what actually ruins your mood. It is rarely the difficulty itself. It is the shock, the message you did not expect, the tone in someone's voice you were not prepared for, the traffic on the one morning you could not afford traffic. Suffering lives in the gap between what you expected and what arrived. The Stoics called this the premeditation of adversity. You spend 2 quiet minutes at the start of the day imagining what might go wrong, the delay, the criticism, the plan that collapses. And then, this is the part people miss. You decide, in advance, who you will be when it happens. Not if it happens. When. So when the rude message arrives at 11 in the morning, something remarkable occurs inside you. Instead of the hot flood of reaction, there is recognition. Ah, there you are. I was expecting you. You have met this moment already, in the calm of the morning, when you had full command of yourself. You simply have to follow the instructions you left behind. So here is the practice. 2 minutes, before you touch your phone, name 3 things that could go wrong today. For each one, name how you intend to respond. That's it. You are not inviting misfortune into your life. You are removing its ability to ambush you. A soldier who has rehearsed does not panic. He remembers. The second habit: divide the world in 2. Epictetus was born a slave. His leg was crippled, most likely by an owner's cruelty. He owned nothing, controlled nothing, and could be sold at another man's whim. He became one of the freest human beings who ever lived. He did it by discovering something so simple that people hear it and immediately underestimate it. Some things are up to you. Some things are not. Up to you, your judgments, your intentions, your effort, your response, what you choose to value, what you do next. Not up to you, your reputation, other people's opinions, the economy, the weather, your past, the outcome of anything, ever. Epictetus taught that virtually all human misery comes from confusing these 2 lists, from clutching at things outside our control as though they were ours, and neglecting the one small territory that genuinely is. Consider how much of your inner life is spent on the wrong side of that line. You replay a conversation from 3 years ago. Gone. Not yours. You are anxious about whether they liked your work. Their opinion forms inside their mind. Not yours. Not yours. You are angry that someone behaved badly. Their character is their possession, not your responsibility. Every hour spent trying to control the uncontrollable is an hour of guaranteed frustration. You have chosen a fight you cannot win, and you will lose it every single time, forever. But the other side of the line, that side you never lose. Nobody can take your response from you. Not an emperor, not an illness, not a market crash. Epictetus was chained and he was free, because the only door that mattered was the one he stood on the inside of. So here is the practice. When you feel yourself tightening, the chest, the jaw, the racing loop of thought, stop and ask one question. Is this mine? If the answer is no, you set it down. Not with indifference, not by pretending you don't care. You set it down because your hands are needed for something you can actually carry. If the answer is yes, then stop worrying and go do it. That single question, asked 10 times a day, will change your life more than any book you read this year. The third habit, choose discomfort before it chooses you. Seneca was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. He had gardens, villas, a fortune most senators could not imagine. And several days each month, he lived like a poor man on purpose. Coarse bread, a hard bed, plain clothes. Then he asked himself a question. Is this the thing I was so afraid of? Here is what he understood. Comfort is pleasant, but comfort compounds into fragility. The softer your life becomes, the more of the world becomes a threat to it. Every luxury you cannot imagine losing is a hostage the world holds against you. Most modern anxiety is not fear of pain. It is fear of losing comfort. Fear of the smaller apartment. Fear of the harder year. Fear of being seen struggling. And that fear quietly runs your decisions. It keeps you in the job. It keeps you in the relationship. It keeps you agreeing with people you disagree with. Not because the loss would destroy you, but because you have never tested whether you could survive it. The Stoics tested it, deliberately, in small doses. And what they found on the other side was not deprivation. It was relief. Because once you have felt the cold water and lived, cold water loses its authority over you. Once you have gone a day hungry by choice, hunger becomes a sensation instead of an emergency. Once you have sat alone in silence without reaching for your phone, boredom stops feeling like a wound. You discover the floor is much lower than you feared, and much more solid. So here is the practice. Choose one small hardship each week, and walk into it on purpose. Take the cold shower, walk instead of riding, skip a meal, sleep without the second pillow, spend an evening with no screen, no music, no input at all. Do not do it to punish yourself. Do it to collect evidence. Evidence that you are harder to break than your fear insists. The person who needs nothing to be well cannot be bargained with, and a person who cannot be bargained with is very difficult to make unhappy. The fourth habit, audit your day before you sleep. Every night, Seneca performed an examination. When the lamps were out and the house had gone quiet, he reviewed the whole day in his mind. Where was I harsh? Where was I petty? Where did I speak to win instead of to understand? What did I say that I would take back? And crucially, where did I do well? He described it as bringing his day before a judge. But he was careful about the tone of that court. He did not flog himself. He did not spiral into shame. He examined, he noted, he corrected, and he slept. And he said the sleep that follows such a review is remarkably deep. This is the habit almost everyone skips, and it is the engine of the entire system. Because without it, you do not actually improve, you simply repeat. Most people live the same day several thousand times and call it a life. Not because they are weak, but because nobody ever taught them to look at the tape. Athletes review their games. Pilots review their flights. Nobody expects to improve at anything complex without honest review. And yet the most complicated thing you will ever operate, your own character, is usually run for 80 years without a single inspection. The evening review is where the day stops being something that happened to you and becomes something you learned from. So here is the practice. 5 minutes before sleep, 3 questions, written down if possible. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What will I do differently tomorrow? 2 rules. First, be honest. Flattery here is worthless. Second, be kind. You are not on trial. You are a student reviewing your own work. And no good teacher ever improved a student through contempt. Do this for 30 nights, and you will know yourself better than most people know themselves after 30 years. The fifth habit. Love what actually happened. There is a phrase associated with the Stoic tradition, amor fati, the love of one's fate. It is not acceptance in the resigned sense, not the shrug of a defeated person. It is something much stranger and much stronger, the practice of embracing what has occurred as though you had chosen it. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this using the image of fire. A weak fire is smothered by what you throw onto it. A great fire takes whatever it is given, wood, refuse, obstacles, and converts all of it into more flame, more heat, more light. That is the mind he was building. Not a mind that avoids obstacles, but a mind that eats them. Because notice, the event has already happened. That is finished. The only thing still open is what you do with it. You lost the job. That is fact. Whether it becomes the ruin of you or the pivot of your life is not yet decided. And that decision is entirely inside your control. The relationship ended. That is fact. Whether you spend 3 years in bitterness or become someone capable of a better love is still unwritten. Most people spend enormous energy arguing with reality, insisting it should have gone differently, running the alternate version in their head at 2 in the morning, and reality never once yields to the argument. It just sits there, unchanged, while you exhaust yourself. Amor fati is the decision to stop the argument and start the work. Not why did this happen to me, but what does this make possible? So here is the practice. Take the thing you most wish had gone differently. Write 1 sentence. Because this happened, I am now able to, and finish it honestly. You may not find the answer immediately. Some losses take years to reveal what they were for, but the habit of looking for the use in what happened, instead of the injustice in it, is the difference between a life that hardens and a life that deepens. The 6th habit, want less before you chase more. Seneca observed that a person is not poor because they have little, but because they crave more. By that measure, most of the wealthiest people on earth are living in poverty. Here is the trap, and almost every person alive is inside it. You believe your dissatisfaction is a supply problem. Not enough money, not enough recognition, not enough of whatever the current gap is. So you go and get more, and you feel relief, for a short while. Then the mind does what the mind always does. It adjusts. The new becomes normal. The relief evaporates. And the gap reopens, exactly the same size as before, just further up the mountain. You have not solved the problem. You have moved it. It was never a supply problem. It was a demand problem. There are 2 ways to close any gap. Increase what you have, which is slow, uncertain, and largely outside your control. Or reduce what you insist upon, which is immediate, certain, and entirely yours. The Stoics did not preach poverty. Seneca kept his fortune. Marcus ruled an empire. The point was never to have nothing. The point was to hold everything loosely enough that its departure would not take you with it. Enjoy the meal. Do not require the meal. So here is the practice. Once a day, take 1 ordinary thing you already possess: a bed, a working body, clean water, someone who answers when you call, and imagine, in real detail, its absence. Not to frighten yourself, to see it again. We do not lack good things. We lack the ability to notice the good things we have already stopped seeing. Gratitude is not a pleasant emotion you wait to feel. It is an act of attention you perform on purpose. The person who has learned to want less has done something no amount of money can accomplish. They have made themselves difficult to disturb. And the 7th habit, make character the only scoreboard. Everything so far rests on this last one. Without it, the other 6 are just techniques. With it, they become a way of living. The Stoics believed there was exactly one thing genuinely good: virtue, your character, who you are when you act. Wisdom, justice, courage, self-control. Everything else, health, wealth, reputation, comfort, even life itself, they called indifferent. Not worthless, preferable, often, but not the thing your happiness is permitted to depend on. This sounds austere until you understand what it buys you. If your happiness depends on outcomes, you have handed the keys to the world, and the world is indifferent, unpredictable, and entirely uninterested in your plans. It will take your health without warning. It will hand the promotion to someone less deserving. It will end things you assumed would last. But if your scoreboard is character, did I act with courage today? Did I tell the truth? Did I keep my temper? Did I do the work honestly? Then no one can touch your score but you. You can lose everything and still win the day. Marcus Aurelius knew he was going to die, and he wrote about it constantly. Not morbidly, practically. He used it as a filter, standing next to death. Most of what agitates us shrinks to its actual size. The argument, the slight, the anxiety about how you appeared. What survives that filter is very short. Was I good to people? Did I do my work well? Did I meet my life with courage instead of complaint? That's the list. That's the whole scoreboard. So here is the practice. Each morning, ask one question. What kind of person am I going to be today? Each night, ask, was I that person? Not what will I achieve? Not what will I get? Who will I be? Because achievement is borrowed and can be recalled at any moment. Character is the one possession that no circumstance, no person, and no misfortune has the authority to take from you. So, 7 habits. Rehearse the day before it touches you. Divide the world into what is yours and what is not. Choose discomfort before it chooses you. Audit your day before you sleep. Love what actually happened. Want less before you chase more. And make character the only scoreboard that counts. None of these will change your life this week. That is not a weakness of the method. It is the method. The Stoics were not interested in inspiration. Inspiration is a feeling, and feelings pass by the following afternoon. They were interested in practice, in the slow, unglamorous accumulation of small correct actions until a person becomes something solid. You will not master these. Marcus Aurelius did not master these. He was still writing reminders to himself in the final years of his life, still catching himself, still beginning again. That is not failure. That is what the work looks like. So begin tonight. Pick one. Just one. The evening review is the easiest place to start. 5 minutes, 3 questions. And understand this clearly, because it is the whole point. Happiness was never waiting for you somewhere ahead, on the other side of the next achievement. It is not a destination you arrive at. It is something you construct, quietly, daily, out of your own choices, until one day you notice that the ground beneath you no longer moves when the world does. If this was useful to you, leave a like. It genuinely helps this channel reach people who need it. Subscribe for more on Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, and the practical wisdom of Stoicism. And tell me in the comments, which of the 7 are you starting with tonight? Take care of your mind. It is the only thing you truly own.